Justice Thomas?
Question about you.
Justice Sotomayor?
I'm a little confused. In your brief, you say Ms. Laufer has not alleged that she used, attempted to use, or planned to use the Inn's reservation service. That's your brief at page 19 to 20. I don't know, and you differentiated yourself from your colleague by saying he thinks that if she wasn't going to use the place at all, she doesn't have standing, and he'll answer that, okay? But does that mean that you're saying no tester could ever have standing?
Certainly not, Justice Sotomayor. We just think that you have to look at the service that's being alleged rather than so if I could give you a physical analogy, I do think it makes it a little bit easier. Here, if you had two people who drive up to a store and they find that there's only stairs, no ramp, and one of them drives away and the other says, I'd really like to go into the store, but I can't, I think that first person has the person who says, I'd really like to go into the store, but I can't, has standing. The person who drives away does not have standing. Neither of them actually has to say, I would buy something.
Was her problem that she didn't say, I didn't go into the website? If she says, I'm surfing to see how many websites I can find information in, is that what her problem was? That she didn't try to make a reservation? Or that she didn't look at the reservation? I don't understand. When do we get to that point?
Sure. So I think when we get to the point where she has an injury is when she says, just as the physical tester says, I would go inside. When she says, I would make a reservation or I would use this information to consider making a reservation, because we certainly take the points that were expressed earlier about people who are considering whether they're going to go to the place and are trying to figure it out. But I think the difference here is that Ms. Laufer was doing this. She had no use for the reservation service itself. She had no interest in actually even completing that transaction.
It's so hard because I think what we're trying to do is to say that the website somehow is different than the physical entry or attempted entry. Because we agree in Blue Haven that the couple wasn't intending to rent. They just went and asked for information, and not Blue Haven, I'm sorry, Haven Realty. And they got turned away, and you're saying that we shouldn't write this to overturn Haven Realty.
Certainly not, Justice Sotomayor.
So what's different than my going to the black couple went to the door of the place, asked for information. A disabled person goes to a website, which is, in my mind, the door to the hotel, or at least a telephone to the hotel, and is being told, no, you're not welcomed here because we don't have accessible rooms here. Basically, it's almost a negative, which is if you don't give me the information, you're telling me that it's not accessible to me.
So I agree with a lot of what you've said, Justice Sotomayor. I think the distinction comes between the way that the statute at issue in Havens was written, which was it is unlawful to falsely tell any person that there is no housing available for a discriminatory reason, essentially, whereas the reservation, and so it doesn't matter whether you're going to rent the apartment, does not matter at all. I think here the reservation rule is much narrower than that. It does provide a right to information, but in connection with actually making a reservation. So if you go to pages 9A to 10A of our statutory appendix, where the regulation is laid out in full, the title of it is Reservations Made by Places of Lodging. The requirements apply with respect to reservations made by any means, and all the way through to, the exceptions and the effective date are based on reservations. And so I think it's not this sort of anybody in the world gets information in quite the same way that it was in Havens. But again, completely agree that Havens 1 should not be overruled. I heard my friend to agree with that. And also that, we're not suggesting that the person who actually does want to make a reservation doesn't have standing.